love? It's Angelica. Welcome or welcome back. If you are new, I post videos twice a week, every single week, all about growing long, healthy, full, natural hair or any kind of hair, honestly. Today, I'm going to be sharing 7 unusual hair care tips that you need to know simply because they are usually overlooked. We just don't care about them, or you just don't realize that they could be stunting your hair growth and stopping you from hitting your hair goals. So let's get straight into the first one. Okay, for the first one, I want to say this one is only specific to the kind of hair that you have. One, this tip will most likely work for almost anyone with low porosity hair. But two, sometimes the porosity of your hair doesn't always determine what you can do and what you can't do. And this is doing a cold rinse. Now, I know this is very, very popular because it's supposed to seal your hair shaft and make it nice and lock in all the moisture, make the hair look a little bit shinier, meaning when you go into the shower, you can use warm water, you can do whatever you want, wash your hair, do everything. But just before you step out of the shower or just before you get out of the shampoo bowl, you do one final rinse with like ice cold water to kind of close the cuticles and make the hair look very shiny. Now, if you have low porosity hair, this may not work for you simply because you actually do not want your hair shaft to close because I'm going to say our because I do have low porosity hair myself. Your cuticle is going to completely close, at least as closed as it can possibly get. And if you have low porosity hair, your hair is already naturally like on the closed side, which means if you close it even further after you get out of the shower, you will not be able to let your other products absorb into your hair as well as they would. So if you want to go ahead and use your leave-in conditioner, or if you happen to do the LCO method or the LOC method, meaning leave-in oil cream or leave-in cream oil, then that product is going to have an issue with penetrating your hair shaft. And this is where you might experience putting products on your hair and it just kind of looks like white, like it's just kind of sitting on top of your hair. It's not actually absorbing into your hair. The other method you can do is very counterintuitive. It makes the cold rinse like a waste of time. So you could do the cold rinse if you want, but then you can do what I do when I moisturize my hair, which is I apply the product onto my hair, then I go under a plastic cap and I go under heat for 20 minutes. So the reason why I'm saying this is counterintuitive is because after you seal the shaft, you're just going to open it again after you go under heat. So there's basically no point. The only way you can possibly go about this is to maybe go under a dryer that blows completely cold air after you are done with your complete moisturizing routine. That could possibly help you. Otherwise, for me, just the air around me itself is cold enough to close my hair shaft. Not to mention, my hair is not the shiniest hair anyway, and the shaft is pretty on the closed side. So if you want the main effect of closing your cuticles, making your hair look smoother and shinier, I would suggest you just use a product that adds shine, like a light oil or something if it's based on the style. For me, my hair is usually in protective styles, and when I wear it out, it's either like this or I will wear it in like a straightened silk press style or something like that. And usually I'm using some kind of an oil or silicone based product that can make my hair shine so I don't have to worry about the sealing the cuticle or anything like that. Now, for the second part of this tip, this relies solely on you monitoring your own hair. You might have Caucasian hair, you might have Asian hair, and it might just naturally be on the smoother, finer, shinier side. And this might be a tip that works for most people with your kind of hair texture. But then just monitor your own hair, because if you wash your hair, you do the cold rinse, and you find that it's actually either not doing anything or you're not getting the desired benefits that you're looking for, just stop doing it and go back to what you were doing before or using warm water, because just because something works for one person or just because something works for a lot of people, it does not mean it's going to work for you. Let's get to the second one. The second unusual hair growth tip is if you ever tie your hair using any kind of hair tie. I know, unusual tip, but that's the point of this video. If you ever tie your hair half up, half down, bun, high pony, it does not matter if you have the silkiest hair on the planet or if you have the kinkiest, highest level of shrinkage type of hair on the planet. All of you should use essentially the same hair ties. And this is completely ouchless ties. I've noticed that a lot of hair ties or ponytail holders, whatever you want to call them, some of them are sold as ouchless ties, but they still are joined in the middle by some kind of like plastic or something like that. So they still have a rough point at one point. I am suggesting you only use completely ouchless ties, and I'm going to show you three right now. They're all different sizes, they're all different materials, but it's essentially the same thing. This is a tiny one, and as you can see, it is a perfect circle. There is nothing connecting it. It is all completely, there's no rough part. It feels the same and smooth on every single part. Now, I don't have a satin or silk scrunchie on me right now, but those also apply because they are very gentle on the hair. They don't even make dents, and those are really good. However, there are some silk ties that are like, it's basically just tied on the end like this. Let's just do it with this because it's already stretched. So it's essentially a hair tie that looks like this, but it's all made out of silk or like any kind of fiber that will not leave a dent in your hair. The problem with that is your hair can start getting caught up in this little part where there's a tie. So whatever fabric, whatever kind of hair tie you use, make sure there's no specific connection point that can cause any kind of friction or roughness in your hair, because tying your hair is already a chance of you getting breakage because your hair could sort of like wrap around this kind of thing or something like that. So reducing the amount of possible breakage and tangling is an amazing, amazing tip, because these will usually not make you lose hair all over your head, but they will make you lose hair on a specific point, which may lead to you having shorter hair because it's just going to look so ridiculous that you feel like you need to cut your hair. Okay, the next one is something you've probably heard a lot, but I have noticed that it's something that a lot of people still do not do. And this is, do not ever cut your hair with scissors that are not hair shears. The only time I would say you can do this is if you plan to cut your hair higher up in a very short space of time. So let's say you're having fun with your hair, okay? You are planning to go to like a pixie cut and your hair is maybe down here and you're like, "You know what? I want to rock my hair in a little sleek bob for like a month before I go shorter." You can go ahead and use whatever kind of scissors you like. It's probably not going to be looking as cute as you want. It won't be as even as you want, but it will just do the job. But there's going to be damage at the bottom of your hair. But because you're cutting higher, when you cut higher and you use professional shears, you don't have to care about the hair at the ends. That is the only instance I would say do whatever you want because you're going to get rid of the hair anyway. Otherwise, if you are just doing a mini cut or a trim, you want to make sure that you always use hair cutting shears. And it's not just companies trying to convince you to buy hair shears or hairstylists wanting you to feel like a hairstylist at home. There is actually a reason. Scissors that are made specifically for cutting hair are extremely sharp so that as soon as you make the cut one way, the cut is done and it makes the end completely straight and it does not fray it. I always give the example of cutting ripped jeans. If you want to wear ripped jeans and you want the nice like kind of frayed look, you are not going to use something like hair cutting shears because it's literally going to make a straight line across. If you want your jeans to look nice and fancy and a little frayed and have little strings hanging out, you're going to use something like craft scissors, maybe some kind of a blade that's slightly blunt. Looking at ripped jeans, that's what's happening to your hair. It might be a micro amount of hair that's happening to, but split ends always travel up. So imagine you decide to cut your hair in a blunt bob that's just touching the tops of your shoulders. If you use that scissors, even if the scissors seems like it's sharp, you're gonna have a nice even cut. And to make it even worse, your hair is right on your shoulders, which means every day when you wear it, it's rubbing across your clothes. Your hair is going to have an even fray. It's going to be evenly frayed at the ends of your hair, and the split ends are just going to keep traveling up, and your hair is going to be breaking at different rates, and it's going to cause a lot of damage. But the reason why a lot of people just go ahead and do this is because you don't usually see the damage on the day when you cut your hair. It just looks perfectly fine. You're like, well, I mean, it did the job. My hair actually looks pretty good, so I'm sure these scissors are fine. But you will see the side effects even 6 months later. So please use hair cutting shears for anything, whether you're doing single strand knots, whether you're doing a full trim, or even the search and destroy method. Tip 4 is a hair growth vitamin, and you might be thinking, well, why is this in unusual tips? Isn't this common knowledge that a hair growth vitamin would possibly help your hair grow? No, this one is in unusual tips because it is not a hair growth vitamin. Hair growth just happens to be a side effect of this vitamin that is meant for your overall health, and it is vitamin D. I actually have a video all about vitamin D. You do not have to buy this specific one, but if you want this one, I will link it in the description box below. I got it from Amazon. It is the Puritan's Pride brand, and it is 250 mcgs or 10,000 IU, international units. So these are rapid release soft gels. These are rapid release soft gels, and I only need to take one a day. Usually, when I've been in less sun exposure, if I've gone for my walks consistently for an entire week and I have at least 30 to 45 minutes of sun exposure every single day, I do not take any of these. But when I know I'm lacking and I need a little extra pick me up, these are good for energy. And I only discovered this recently by accident, simply because I wasn't going outside as much for about 2 months, and I realized I absolutely have to be low in vitamin D at this point. So let me get a supplement, and then I started noticing that it was helping my hair. Then I did a little research and I found out that being low in vitamin D can actually severely stunt your hair growth, and it can even cause hair loss. So once you start getting more exposure or taking a vitamin D supplement, as well as eating foods with vitamin D, you might notice that your hair starts to grow so much further. I actually saw a study with a dermatologist where he had a patient who came to his office and he thought he was experiencing early male pattern baldness. But when he looked at the guy's hair, he noticed that the pattern of his hair loss was not like androgenetic alopecia, which is female or male pattern baldness. And instead, he noticed that he was kind of losing hair all over his head. And so he prescribed him vitamin D because he checked his levels, which a normal average level should be around 30 to 100. This guy's level was 8. And so he put him on vitamin D supplements. I believe it was probably a liquid version. And this man, in 6 or 8 weeks, he experienced a 50% increase in his hair growth. So it turned out all his hair loss was actually just from lack of vitamin D. Because always remember, supplements are only to supplement what you can get naturally. If your vitamin D levels are already perfectly normal or perfectly high, then this is actually going to do nothing, and you basically just pee it out, or your bloodstream will just get it out of your system and it will do nothing. It's the same with biotin or any other hair growth supplement. If you already have enough of those supplements or nutrients in your body, taking additional supplements will not do anything for you. Tip 5 is similar to tip 1, and this is to do with the temperature of the water that you wash your hair with. Whether you have low porosity hair or not, if you use any kinds of products on your hair, I would suggest you wash your hair with really nice warm water, not scalding hot, because it can burn your hair shaft, it can burn your follicles on your scalp, and that can cause hair damage. I noticed that a lot of people don't focus on how hot the water should be, just that you should do a cold rinse or maybe wash your hair with warm water, but they don't talk about the temperature of how hot. It should not be scalding hotly. And the reason why you want to do this is because using warmer water can actually help you use less shampoo, which may cause dryness because of stripping your hair, because it's going to help melt down all the oils, the natural oils from your scalp, the oils that are included in any products, whether you use a moisturizer or a straight up oil. This is going to help kind of melt that off, and it'll make your hair easier to wash. It'll also open your cuticles and your follicles to allow whatever products you use to come out of your hair easily, but also for you to put more products back into your hair and let them be absorbed really well. Especially if you have low porosity hair, using warm water actually makes a huge difference. Now, if you make the water too lukewarm, it's going to be almost similar to using cold water. Your cuticles won't be open enough, and the oils or any other products on your hair will be a little bit difficult to wash off. So try and find the perfect balance of the heat of the water for yourself. Tip number 6 is another one that may be a little bit like common sense, but a lot of people still don't follow it. And this is, do not dry your hair with a regular towel, because all the little bits of fabric on the towel really dry out your hair, and they can kind of cause tangling and matting, and it is just, it's not a good thing. Okay, so I would suggest you either use cotton, really soft cotton t-shirt, or you can use, a bunch of companies are making microfiber towels now. There's one by Coco and Eve that I use, and there's another one that I use that is by, what is the brand? It is the sister brand of K18. But those are definitely very good because they are made out of microfiber. They are soft, they are meant for drying hair, and they absorb all the water out of your hair without causing any dryness or irritation to your actual hair shaft. This is something that can cause minor problems with your hair that you won't notice. It's kind of like trimming the hair with the blunt scissors. You won't notice the effects immediately. It'll be like over time. If you consistently dry your hair with a towel over time, you are going to start to see damage. It can start causing split ends, breakage. So please try to avoid this. The seventh tip is another one that seems like common sense, but clearly it's not, okay? Because people always ask me why their hair is not growing, knowing exactly what they're doing. And this is probably the simplest tip out of this entire set of tips. Stop cutting your hair. I know, it seems obvious, but it's not. It is very simple. If you stop cutting your hair, you will keep length for a longer time. Even if you experience breakage and damage, you will only be trimming your hair. You will only be getting rid of the little bits of damaged hair. Now, there are so many things that go into me saying stop cutting your hair. Stop cutting your hair may include stop bleaching your hair, because you know that if you bleach your hair, eventually you're going to get tired of it, or maybe your hair doesn't like bleach, so eventually it's going to start looking very damaged. You're going to cut off the bleach hair, continue growing your hair out again. It reaches this length, and you're like, really dry, really dark brown hair is not really my thing. I think I want to add in a couple highlights. So you do highlights and then you get tempted to add more color, then you add more color, and then you add more color, and then you start experiencing damage, then you play with a little heat. Then you have to cut it again, okay? So if you decide you want to bleach your hair, or you want to relax your hair, or you want to become a straight natural, think about committing to it before you think about your length goals. You might experience a little bit of damage, a little bit of loosening of the curl pattern, but if you maintain that hair and you are committed to keeping it very well, because it is very high maintenance, you can still grow long, healthy hair while maintaining that hairstyle. But if you know that you keep reaching a point where you know you can't sustain it, or you just don't have the time to maintain it, don't do things that will lead you to cut your hair, because you will constantly be at the same place while wondering why your hair is not growing. Meanwhile, it is you. You just keep cutting your hair. Another way to avoid the itch is to start wearing or playing with wigs, and wigs are usually the best one. Headband wigs, regular wigs, maybe closure wigs. I don't really recommend full frontals if you're trying to grow your hair. But anyway, if you really have the itch to rock some blonde hair, you want to rock hair that's shorter than yours, you want to wear hair that is way longer than yours, play with wigs. Dye it blue, dye it green, chop it, make it a blunt cut, wear a pixie cut, and then go back to your hair. If you do not care about hair growth and you don't want to have long hair, you can go ahead and do whatever you want. But if your ultimate goal is actually to grow long, healthy hair, you will continue going into the cycle of playing around with it and then cutting it, and then it grows a bit, and then you do the same thing, and you will never actually hit your goals. If you want more hair tips like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button right there and watch the two videos on the side of the screen right here. Also, make sure you hit the notification bell. And if you've been wondering about when I'm going to do a length check video, I will not be using a measuring tape, but I will be doing a length check because it is silk press season, and in less than a month I will be posting my silk press video, my annual silk press, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!